It's coming up to that time where I start to think about my next bike. I normally keep a bike for around 2 years and usually sell it once I've put 25,000 kilometres on the clock. I find this is about the point where I get good use out of the bike overall and still retain a reasonable resale value. I've had the NC750X for over a year now, so I'm starting to turn my attention to what I'll ride next. I only own one bike at a time, and that bike is also my daily driver, which means I ride it all year round. My wife has the car, I have the bike, and that suits me just fine. I like a wide variety of bikes, and there are a few that have been catching my eye lately. So I thought I'd put them down on paper and start looking at the pros and cons of each model, and begin exploring which bike might be my next ride. It's probably helpful at this point to name the bikes that are on the list. I'll name them in order from most practical to least practical. Number 1 is the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. Number 2 is the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro. Number 3 is the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE. And number 4 is the Kawasaki Z900 RS. Number 5 is the Honda CB1000R. Number 6 is the Harley Sportster S. And number 7 is the Indian Scout Bobber 20. These are the top 6 bikes that really appeal to me at the moment, but that could quite readily change over the next year or so. Now you may be wondering why the new NC750X is not on the list. 2 reasons. Number 1 is, I don't like the fact the suspension travel has been reduced on the new version. And 2, the big one, it looks like we're not getting that bike here in Australia. There is another bike that could leap onto this list however, and that is the much rumoured Baby Africa Twin, the CRF 850L. From what I'm hearing, this bike would be a smaller version of the Africa Twin and would use an 850cc version of the same engine that is currently in my NC750X. I love that engine, and a larger, more powerful version would be really nice. What I like about the NC750X's engine is that it combines good power and torque with excellent fuel economy. Drop that into a frame with long travel suspension and that could be one nice ride. As soon as I have concrete info on the smaller Africa Twin, I'll share it with you guys. Back to the list. There are 3 categories featured here: Adventure, Naked and Cruiser. The Adventure category is the strongest contender at the moment, as I'm really enjoying riding on and off-road. When I say off-road, I'm talking dirt, gravel roads. I'm not interested in the more hardcore kind of off-road riding. Let's have a look at some pros and cons of my potential new bike list. Starting with the pros for the base Africa Twin Adventure Sports model: good power and torque, good wind and weather protection for winter riding, good screen for taller riders, TFT display, cruise control, comfortable seat for longer highway touring, heated grips, long suspension travel, toolless rear preload adjustment via a knob, Android Auto, and all the electronic goodies I'll ever need. Plus, I love the way it looks. Now a few cons. Rather than cons, let's say question marks. 1 is price. They're not cheap. 2, I'm not sure if it comes with a centre stand. And 3, I am concerned about fuel economy. I know they're comparatively economical for their size, but it will be more expensive to run than my thrifty NC750X. Having said that, I could probably say the same for every bike on this list, so maybe I can't put fuel economy down as a con when comparing to the others. Now I need to be clear, I've never actually ridden the Africa Twin. I'm sharing general consensus information gleaned from watching many reviews. I do hope to get a test ride at some point though, at which time I'll record the ride and let you know if the claims are all true. Regarding DCT and electronic suspension on the more expensive Africa Twin models, it wouldn't worry me if my budget didn't stretch to cover those items. From what I've seen, I'd be quite happy with a clutch, manual gearbox and the manually adjustable suspension, but I would like to try the DCT someday. Next, the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro. Pros: good power and torque, reasonable wind and weather protection, although I'm not sure if it's as good as the Africa Twin. TFT display, GoPro connectivity, tyre pressure monitoring, heated grips, heated seat, cruise control, toolless rear preload adjustment, again via a knob, comes with a centre stand, multiple power outlets, auxiliary driving lights and a quick shifter. I have 2 question marks though: screen effectiveness for a 6'1" rider and seat comfort. Now the Triumph Scrambler 1200 EX. This bike has come onto my radar only recently, the big draw on this bike being the 10-inch suspension travel front and rear, Showa on the front and Öhlins on the rear. Combine that with Triumph's torquey 1200cc engine, comfy looking bench seat, more on that later, Brembo brakes and radially mounted calipers. With that amount of suspension travel, I'd expect the Scrambler 1200EX to have a pretty nice ride down the road, but only a test ride will confirm that. Now the pros. Torquey powerful engine, long travel suspension, Showa and Öhlins, radially mounted Brembo brakes, cruise control, heated grips, TFT display, GoPro connectivity and under-seat USB charging. For cons, I've heard the suspension can be a bit hard on the road, but I imagine that will depend a lot on the weight of the rider. I'm also not sure about seat comfort on a longer trip. Nobody seems to talk about it in reviews. Another con is the lack of wind and weather protection, and there is a potential for leg heat with that Scrambler style exhaust. Now to the nakeds. The Kawasaki Z900 RS and Honda CB1000R. I've ridden the CB1000R and really liked it, and although I've sat on one at the dealership, I haven't test ridden the Z900 RS. Let's do two at a time. The pros. Both these bikes have all the power and torque I'll ever need. Braking and handling on the Honda is superb, and I'd expect the same from the Kawasaki. Seat comfort was good for me on the CB1000R, but I have heard niggles about the Z900's seat. Neither have wind or weather protection to speak of, nor do they have cruise control, heated grips, etc. These two bikes are my more fun options, but the reality is I'd be trading my off-road excursions, practicality and year-round rideability for more fun on the road and twisty bits. I'm not sure if I'm wanting to do that right now. And finally onto the cruisers. The Harley-Davidson Sportster S and Indian Scout Bobber 20. I'm specifically quoting the Bobber 20, in particular the Australian version with the tractor seat, because that's the option I found most comfortable for my 6'1" height. The tractor seat sits me up and back more. Combine that with the Scout Bobber's forward controls, and I find the riding position to be near perfect. The pros and cons. Both the Sportster S and Scout will have all the power and torque I need. They both have forward controls. The Sportster S is lighter. I think I prefer the exhaust note and engine sound of the Indian. Being lighter, the Sportster should have more effective braking, but they both share a single disc on the front end. The Sportster S has a TFT display with Bluetooth integration, the Scout does not. They both suffer from limited rear suspension travel, 2 inches, but the Scout does have a Fox rear shock option which reportedly makes the ride more tolerable. The Scout is cheaper. The Sportster S may require a seat upgrade for me. The Scout seat is fine as is. I'd need to fit mini apes to the Sportster S. The Scout spars are perfect for my height. I'm not a fan of the Sport's Scrambler style exhaust system. Leg heat really concerns me. I like the look and sound of the Scout's stock exhaust system. I wouldn't need to change it. When it comes to looks, right now I think I prefer the Scout, but I won't make a final decision on styling until I see the Sportster S in the flesh. Weighing up those pros and cons, if I was forced to pick one over the other, the Australian version Scout Bobber 20 would probably make more sense for me and would be my pick. Okay, so I've knocked one bike out. I wasn't planning to do this, but let's knock out some more. I think if I was going to buy another naked bike, it would be a cruiser. The sort of riding I do nowadays, I think I can see myself enjoying the ride more on the Scout over the CB1000R and Z900S. If I was younger, it would probably be the opposite. So for now, I'm knocking out the nakeds. So now it's the Scout versus the adventure bikes. Here's where I have to weigh up how much value I place on practicality and versatility. I had a lot of fun test riding the Scout. In fact, I didn't want to take it back. But it was a perfect sunny day on my test ride, and I'm wondering how that test ride would have gone if it was cold, wet and miserable. Let's come back to the Scout after I whittle the adventure bike candidates down to one bike. I can't rule out the Scout just yet. So the Africa Twin, Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro and Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE. I think I can knock the Scrambler out now. If I'm going the adventure bike route, I want wind and weather protection. So that leaves the Africa Twin and Tiger 900. And after much mulling over, I think long term, I'm going to be happier on the Africa Twin. So we're now down to the Africa Twin Adventure Sports versus the Scout Bobber 20. Two completely different styles of bike delivering two different but equally rewarding, for me, riding experiences. I like riding cruisers and I like riding adventure bikes. That's why I'm comparing two completely different categories. Let's look at pricing now. Pricing often comes later in the decision making process for me. It's more important for me to first find a bike I think will work before getting too hung up on the price tag. Plus, nowadays, I know they're all going to have steeper ticket prices. Is it me, or are bikes getting more expensive day by day? In Australia, the Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports sells for $27,281. That's right away, no more to pay. In Australia, the Indian Scout Bobber 20 sells for $21,495 right away. Even if I throw in a set of Fox shocks and an LED headlight for the Scout, it's still coming in cheaper at $23,495 Australian dollars. But price isn't everything, and when you weigh up what you get for your money on the Africa Twin, heated grips, cruise control, long travel suspension, good weather and wind protection, it's starting to look like better value for money. Okay, I've gone on long enough. I'm forcing myself to make a decision and pick a winner. With its practicality, versatility and all year round riding credentials, the win for me has to go to the Africa Twin. But if I could have a second bike, it would be the Scout. Well, that was a bit of fun. Who knows, by the time I get around to upgrading, something new and more exciting may be on the market. But for now, it's looking like my next bike will be the Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports. This video is far longer than I intended it to be. If you've made it this far, well done. Do me a favour and type I am legend or marathon man in the comments section below so I'll know who you are. Thanks heaps for watching this video today, and hopefully I'll see all of you again in the next one. Bye for now.